West Tigers faithful back with you for another week, this time in a virtual capacity. The people who are recording this episode are real people, but they are just not next to each other now. One of those people is Joe McCord. He is my co-host, and he joins us live from the Pitch Studios in Brisbane. How are you, mate?
Mate, bloody good, mate. Pinch Studios, bloody good. The People is a great song by a great band from Kipax in England called The Music. Get around it.
There you have it. Go and have a listen to that. And also, go and pre-save Strangers by Punch a Koala while you're at it. And while you're also doing that, like, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us on all various streaming sites, and as well as our social medias. I must admit, after the loss, as I always do, I tend to go dark for a little while. As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been too much major West Tigers news besides some typical Dreambuller rumblings beyond the Bulldogs. I'm not going to give that any time because I feel like we've spoken about it ad nauseum. Mac, is there anything that you want to sort of touch on before we begin to review this Warriors game?
We just know you mean you don't want to talk about the South game?
Well, we are going to talk about the South game. I just meant anything in the news cycle, but as far as I'm aware,
Has there been anything in the news cycle West Tigers related? I mean, I heard through the grapevine Benji Marshall was resigning to join NRL 360 after Braithen Astor was found guilty of committing felonies, but aside from that,
could you shed light on said felonies?
I get sued, but it's got something to do with it rhymes with pain and starts with.
All right. Well, we're off to an absolute flyer. Round 3, our round 2 was a 20-16 loss in front of a sold-out crowd at Gosford Polytech Stadium. As you tell me, you turn on the television and it was 12-0. That was after 7 minutes gone. You obviously then continue to watch the remaining 73 minutes. Certainly an interesting game and a lot of things to unpack, but I just want to get your initial thoughts. Where are you at? What did you see? And how do you think it bodes for probably the next month?
I think that the West Tigers were the better side of the two. It's a shame because there was a fair few of these type of games last year where we, especially early on in the year, where we won on the stats sheet in almost every category and lost on the scoreboard. And I remember, this time last year when we were talking about that, and we're like, well, that's good. We win more, like playing that well, winning on the stat sheet in all of those ways tends to result in more wins than losses, right? But it's becoming an annoying pattern. I think that South's defended very, very well. Like I have to start there. It's always easy for a fan of a side that goes down like this to blame the attack, but it takes two sides to create an outcome. And South specifically defended well where we're probably most likely to score points, I think. You know what I mean? Like Jack Whiten defended really, really well. Latrell Mitchell defended really, really well. Our back row that were really dominant in week 1 were quiet. I think we still won the middle quite comprehensively, which you and I both expected we would. But South also scrambled really well on their line. Like when we had moments where we were looking like we were going to put on points, they just really got up in our face and shut down plays early, which, I don't know whether it says more about the way the Cowboys defend or it says more about, the Tigers attack, but it seemed like the Tigers of this round just gone were a lot more like the 2025 Tigers, and that's a worry. Also, I'll probably have to apologize on behalf of past me for speaking so negatively towards South, considering the egg on my face. Look, I just want to take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody. The Mac does whatever the fuck he wants. Sorry, I swore. We promised we wouldn't, but here I go. But yeah, anyway, look, long story short, if that happens again, I'm going to start to get a little bit frustrated, but we'll give them one. We'll give it to South and say move on.
Yeah, I think that's a good a good way to look at it. I think, two things are true. We didn't attack very well at all, but South defended really well. And it felt like I appreciate in a lot of ways the patience that the Tigers showed, that they continued to keep coming back and peppering their line. But the lack of adjustment for mine was the worry, either from the coaching staff or the halves or the spine. I don't really know who is directly responsible for those things or whether or not they share blame. For mine, it just felt like there for a little while. We just expected the gaps to open, and we actually went away from those fundamentals. We've spoken about Adam Dewey at 7 ad nauseum through the preseason and even through a little bit of last year. And for mine, it's those subtleties of halfback play that we spoke about so glowingly of via Jock Madden that I feel as if we're missing and may have created more space for that right edge in particular. The left edge, it was disappointing in a lot of ways, but realistically, I think that obviously 2 tries came down that edge, and Luai did enough to obviously work back letting in those 2 tries initially, although, Luke and Hiamasi also have their share of the blame there. But for mine, I just felt as if we looked a little bit more lethargic and attacked than what we should have, particularly when we had so much ball. Adam Dewey created that try against the Cowboys where Kai Pearce-Paul, he scores his first try off that beautiful short ball off Jareem. And it was that variation in speed and hitting the ad line at speed and playing nice and square and playing out the back. And I didn't really see that on Saturday night. And you could potentially put that down to conditions or the fact that it happened in the first half. But to not have seen a variation in tempo or an intent to go deep into the line like that was a lot of the reason why I don't think there was space on our edges.
I
And
agree.
again, South scrambled like dogs, but at the same time, that wasn't good enough. Further, I can understand why people are disappointed with Jareem Buller. I think some of the criticism has been harsh, and realistically, if you are going to demand an eight or $900,000 pay packet, I do expect you to create something from a 3-on-3 situation. Now, ideally, it does, an overlap does appear from the work done, via the middle corridor and your half, either left or right side. But at the same time, it's something that, I had hoped would work. That realistically, I know that Jamie Humphries is realistically a 13 playing 7, but Jareem Buller, for all the athletic gifts that he possessed, could have done better. So there are things to look at, and no doubt they will be assessing them. One thing that I want to sort of talk about really quickly is the fact that Benji Marshall is always big on effort areas, fitness and defence in the first part of the year, and he thinks that wins games. And that may be true, but for mine, I am a little concerned with the fact that maybe we're putting too much emphasis into those 3 pillars. And maybe if there was a little bit more time and effort spent on the attack and working on those combos and being able to make adjustments on the run, for example, hammering them through the middle where we were so superior that maybe, you could have seen a different result. And we're sitting here too.
Yeah, it's a fair summary. I think I said to somebody at least in the aftermath of that game, if you switch the fullbacks around, we probably win that game in a canter with how well Gray played.
Yeah, he was really good and lick taken. Genuinely, he was excellent. Look, I've never seen him play a game like that, and usually he's a handbrake and attack, but credit where it's due. He was the best player on the field by a mile, and I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that we got back into the game when he was off the field.
With who, sorry?
Jai Gray when he went off for his H.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you said somebody else's name. I'm so. Aside from that, I think that we were showed up by not having our starting centers, having a makeshift center and a Brookie up against Jack Whiten and Latrell Mitchell. Certainly, while they didn't super take advantage of it from an attacking perspective, which we maybe expected, it made it really hard for us to threaten them. Marcy and Taruva, even they had okay moments, especially Sunia, I think a few times sort of was threatening, but it wasn't in traditional structure. It wasn't in shape. It was, sort of off the back of off the cuff stuff or Sunia coming in field and doing what Sunia does from that perspective. I think, yeah. And then I also feel like, generally speaking, if Jerome didn't get injured when he got injured, we probably would have won that game because we had all the momentum when he got hurt. And with 13 minutes left on the clock just to score one more try, it's hard to imagine that we wouldn't have manufactured one with both him and Dewey on the field. Yeah, onwards and upwards. I still think it's promising. It's just probably part of it might be maybe hopefully we're just underestimating Souths. Maybe Souths are actually a better side than we think they are.
Well, Benji hasn't peaked as a top 4 side, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but maybe there is something to that school of thought in saying that, and I'm not here to necessarily make excuses. I think there were some reasons as to why we struggled, but at the end of the day, we came up against a side that realistically we should have beaten, and we had the knockover. We had 8% additional possession. We ran for nearly 300 meters more than them. We had the same amount of line breaks. We had 42 tackle breaks to their 29. And our tackle efficiency was considerably better, although that's not everything. It was wet. I think that our halves, Dewey spiral bomb, paid dividends for that second try. I don't know why we didn't go back to that. They peppered Skelton all night. The first try comes from one of his errors when there was this, really, really good kick that was incredibly hard to take. I forget who it was for South, but he drops that. And then there's 2 tries off kicks that come afterwards that realistically were the difference. It's disappointing to sit here on the end of a loss. And look, I don't think teams are going to defend as well as what South did the other night. They were excellent. And having Whiten and Latrell Mitchell, who are both elite defensive players, certainly helps on those edges, particularly when you've got guys out. But again, this is one you sit back, and it's similar to New Zealand last year, where you run into a good side, and you're in control, and you still can't find it. So disappointing from that perspective. But I guess life goes on. And you're right. There was some shades of 25. There were even shades of 2023 there. It's just how they respond in these coming weeks, even without Jerome Luai. There's one thing that I want to read. It comes from our great mate, Depressed Tigers fan, and he put up a post 3 days ago. And it was regarding proud of the effort, and I think it's worth repeating here because I think it embodies how we feel about it at the moment. I know for a fact this will be a very unpopular opinion, so do feel free to disagree in the comments, but I am sick of having to say this over DM, so I'm going to put it here instead. When discussing a historically unsuccessful team in the middle of a rebuild, I believe it is actively irresponsible to use the phrase proud of the effort because it promotes a culture of accepting mediocrity that needs to be avoided at all costs. Believe it or not, players and coaches do read your comments and they do feed off your energy. If you, the key stakeholder of the club, let them know that you're satisfied by a loss due to the effort brackets, which is the absolute bare minimum, given these people are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to play a sport for a living, then they will continue to put in the bare minimum. Tonight's game was lost in close fashion, not due to the lack of effort, but a lack of execution, which comes down to the attacking system put in place by the coaching staff, either A, not working at all, or B, not getting through to the players. If this were to happen in the same fashion in 2025, which it did in multiple places, then being proud of the effort is okay. You are watching new players to the club in a new system where they were just learning. But this is 2026 and this is not acceptable anymore. I don't want to support a team that tries their best. I want to support a team that wins. And with a good amount of patience that the coaching staff has been afforded, a good effort is not good enough anymore. He goes on to say other things, but I think that probably embodies how we feel about the Tigers at the moment, right? That they've had all summer. There is no real major systemic change to the structures because the assistant coaching are in place. Kai Pearce-Paul is the only one that's realistically come in and changed up the starting 13. It is time. The rebuild is over. Put up or shut up. Is that fair?
Yeah, I feel like that the comments directed at Benji Marshall because of how Benji Marshall came out in the presser. I think that that's probably what this particular person was pissed off about and trying to kind of like play the cards that he thought Benji should have played. I mean, when you think about how head coaches respond to things like that, they all have different kind of mentalities to it. When Ricky Stewart suffers losses like that, he always finds some way to blame the refs. Some coaches will literally say, just, like Madge, mate, just not good enough, no matter what. We know that about Madge. Like Madge just does not believe in the concept of trying not to win every single game, no matter where you are in your rebuild. So Madge would have come out and said, yeah, just not good enough. We just didn't get our areas. Benji Marshall's mentality is probably a little bit more like Wayne Bennett, where he makes excuses for his players. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they say in the presser after the game. It matters what they say to the players behind closed doors where we don't see it. So to depressed Tigers fan, he is right, I think, from the perspective of like how the public should respond. I agree with that. I'm certainly one that is very conscious of what he said about players and coaches and that actually, following along with the rhetoric that the fans produce. But it's also, I think it's super necessary because, like you say, it is how we feel. I think, and West Tigers fans of all clubs are certainly not the sort of fans who, you know, are like, yay, boys. No, we're all sick of it. We're not going to sit around and be like sing their praises when they lose. So it's not exactly a risk either. So I guess to say he's right, probably, probably not that insightful of a comment.
No, no, and I don't think it was insightful at all. It was just more in the sense of realistically, we are now at a point where the rebuild is done and it is time to see results. And that's fair enough. And look, we've had successful seasons, 3 of them. We've had 3 successful seasons.
Yeah.
We're in the first 5. We have lost matches. And that does happen. Obviously 2011, we lost to the Dogs round 1 in a game where it was similar to South. We had our fair share of the ball. We couldn't get it done. These things do happen. It's just seeing how we adjust for next week. Now, it is going to be a little bit different, and this is a little bit of a segue into the Warriors preview, although I am mindful that Logan Brookes / Deninger is due to join us in the next 5 minutes. But Jerome Luai is obviously out now with an MCL. Taylor May obviously has his shoulder complaint. Adam Dewey is apparently right to go, but Stafford Toa still isn't there. So it's, obviously a lack of cohesion, particularly on that left edge, is already beginning to rear its head. It's interesting times ahead, but how are you feeling about the absence of Jerome, and how badly do you think it'll be felt?
I don't know. On one hand, I feel like Jock Madden and Adam Dewey's pretty decent halves pairing. We're going to probably now be stronger in terms of kicking game. And Jock leading. Jock's playing 6, hey? It's odd.
Jock will be wearing the 6, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Jury's out. Like, I'm not super stressed about it, aside from potentially the impact it might have on their belief as a group. I think a lot of they derive a lot of their energy and self belief from Jerome. Although that may not necessarily be the case anymore. Like that might have been just like his first year magic. You would hope so, because they're all, quality players in their own right, and they shouldn't need to, have Jerome Luai there just to put their best foot forward. They should be able to put their best foot forward anyway and win regardless. Yeah, it's an interesting contest we have this weekend because the Warriors have been in red hot form and look like they're not exact. Playing New Zealand in New Zealand this week is probably the last thing that I would have, if I could have magicked up the round 4 fixture after last week's round. This would have probably been the very last thing that I would have been able to. Maybe this and Melbourne were probably the 2 worst possible things that we could have done off the back of that loss. But at the same time, that's maybe a good thing, because they're not going to be able to go into this game and, roll over some side that they think is, and invariably lose to some side that they think is, beatable. Like if we had been, rolling into, I don't know, the Dolphins at Campbelltown or something like that this week, the side might not have got their best foot forward and got proper up for this, but at least the Tigers know that they're going to have to show up in their best form this week to even stand a chance. So that's going to put them psychologically in the right place at least.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It is one of the tougher places to go and play, particularly after a loss and losing your biggest star. And obviously they have Luke Metcalf coming back. I think it's a really interesting one, and I'm curious to see how it stacks up because I think the game styles, at least, for all intensive purposes, particularly at the Tigers, are pretty similar. Whereas, Souths have a poor forward pack and strike on their edges, and we have strike on our edges ourselves, although, both of our first choice centres were out. Our forward pack made short work of them. From my perspective, the Warriors have the best forward pack in the comp, but they also have some outside backs that are really good out of yardage, but are prone to the odd error, particularly Pompey and Leia. And I would have said this if it was Chanel or Luke Hanson at 6. alongside Tanner Boyd. They've got some really, really good disciplined system halves that will just basically, enact a game plan. It's now that I think we more have that now. Adam Dewey, I don't, being the 7 now, I don't think he's necessarily going to be the X factor guy that he once was playing on the right edge at 6, when Michael Maguire was coaching us. So it's a really fascinating one because I think that there are opportunities to score points, the same as there was last week, and we only basically scored one try off an RB break and one try off a kick. But I genuinely believe that there are points to be scored here as long as our forward pack can match what I believe is the best forward pack in the comp. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I think our forward pack at the moment is our strength. I think they've been excellent. I think Happy Corus has been our best player to start the season. I think Alex Twal hasn't been too far behind him, and Sione Fainu and Royce Hunt have been phenomenal off the bench. There is not necessarily confidence, but there's upside to our side. And having Jock there and providing that it is going to be wet, because that's what they're forecasting, I think that plays into our hands with a Madden Dewey halves combination. Madden can kick back across the ruck. He can pull the ball high in the air and he can buy us time, and we can back our kick chase and back our line speed and really try and get into the grind from there. I don't mind if that happens. Last year was a pretty grinding sort of game. You look at the tries that were scored, a lot of them were through the middle. Fanua Bole with some late footwork at the line. Latu Fainu just pinning the ears back and stepping inside them. Obviously, there was that, the try that Halasima scored, which was just insane, where, he sort of skips around Bird and Bird looks like he's on ice skates. But at the same time, like last year was a very sort of, it was a game that really swung. There were the odd tries on the edges, but it was really a game that was played through the middle. And I don't think this is going to be too much different. Do you tend to agree?
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit more optimistic about our chances than most people. I think we match up better with the Warriors than most other sides. I feel like the Warriors are also probably a little overachieving a bit so far this year. I don't necessarily like they're very well coached side, but on paper they have a lot of glaring weaknesses, and they're going to have 2 players coming back from injury this week, so they're going to be, a bit rusty on combinations. If the Tigers show up in good nick and they show up and put their best foot forward and they play the game the way that they can play, they can win the game. Like it's a winnable game, very challenging. The number 1 overall draft pick of the 2025 West Tigers faithful draft pick. He's finally arrived.
It's good to be on.
Where are you recording from, Logan?
Just at my house.
Sweet. Are you in the Tigers house, mate?
I was originally in like a homestay, like kind of setup thing, but yeah, towards the end of last year, I got my own place, so it's been good.
How you finding it, mate? Are you because obviously your family's from Queensland, so how have you found like the jump in terms of like moving down here, having to cook for yourself, fucking doing your watch and all that sort of stuff?
It's actually been really good. I've enjoyed it a lot. Like the maturity level side of things as well. Like having to not be able to go from going straight from high school straight to living by yourself in Sydney. It's been quite enjoyable, to be honest.
Nice,
Sick.
bro. Whereabouts in Sydney are you?
I'm in Regent's Park, so
I know Regent's Park.
yeah.
You
It's
can
not
catch
bad.
the train to Homebush when you start playing first grade.
Yeah, it's pretty close to everything, so well, for me at least. So it's pretty good.
Nice, man. Go on, Mac.
How's the form? You've scored about 95 tries already this season. So New South Wales Cup next week or something?
Oh, we're hoping for a phone call up, but it's been pretty good, eh?
Mate, tell us about you, because I don't know if you know this story, but when we found out that you'd signed with the club, I think it was a Zero Tackle article. We watched about 15 seconds of tape for you playing for Wavell, and we went, yeah, right, I think he's got something. But where did you grow up?
Come on.
Who'd you play
That's
junior footy
underplaying it.
for?
That's not playing it. I watched one highlight where you got the ball off a kick and ran the length of the field and scored a try. And I posted in the Discord server, first grader, we need to sign him to a 10-year deal. So, yeah, Rudy was definitely downplaying the hype level.
Yeah, big time. But mate, tell us about you. Where are you from? Where'd you play your junior footy? Who'd you play junior reps for, and how'd you end up at the Tigers?
So I'm from Townsville. Played, uh, started off at Townsville Brothers Leagues. Played there until like under 13s, and then I moved to Thurringale North Devils. Um, Won a grand final my first year there, so that was good. Stuck around there until under 17s, and then I played local A grade for a year in under 17s, as well as playing up like school footy, North Queensland reps. There was only 1 year that I missed out in North Queensland reps, and I was the younger age trying to make the under 18 side. So that was all right. That was a good learning curve for me. And then I got the call. My manager gave me a call before the National Queensland Schoolboys final the day before, and he said, "Oh, you've just been offered a contract by the West Tigers," and yeah, I was jumping in joy. I couldn't believe it was finally true.
That's unreal, bro. So, obviously you came down here last year, had your first year of ball. Obviously you were 19, right? So obviously you were of age that year.
Yeah, I was 18. I just turned 19 at the end of the year.
Yeah, right. So from what I recall, from minute one off your kick returns and stuff, it was clear that like opposition teams hadn't done too much video off you, but your kick returns is some of the best parts of your game, right? But your ability to beat a man one-on-one, like how did you find that first year in SG? We'll talk about flagging a little bit, but you know, talk to some of the differences between junior rep footy in Sydney and New South Wales compared to Queensland, and how you found that transition, and how you felt you went that year.
Yeah. It was like an amazing comp to play in, obviously. Yeah, love the kick returns. Love seeing a staggered line in front of me. It's what gets me excited on the field. I'd say in comparison to reps like Mal Meninga, Cyril Connell, I played in both of them for the Townsville Blackhawks. I'd say SG ball is a lot faster. Like the footy down here is a lot faster. I'd say in Mal Meninga is probably a bit more physical, but it
North Queensland boys.
yeah, just like the contact, I'd say is a little bit higher, but compared to the speed and the pace of the game, and I think the ability down here is because there's such a big variety. I guess yeah, it's very high. But yeah, I was feeling that I couldn't play the whole season of SG ball. Had a couple niggles with injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, my experience in SG ball was it was awesome.
And then obviously going to flag, I remember because obviously Leon moved on, and then Shane came in, who I want to talk about Shane in a little bit because we're a big admirer of his work.
Yeah.
And don't tell him that. But I remember you hit the ground running in SG, but in flag it took you a little while to find your feet. And then that game against Canberra, when Tino kicked that goal from the sideline, you exploded that day. How did you find that step up, and when did you feel like there was a turning point? You went, "Oh fuck, I know what I'm doing now."
Yeah, no, it was a massive leap, like compared to really anything that I've played before, like competition wise, level wise, speed, physicality. Like yeah, it was altogether just a massive step up. Yeah, I was a bit slow coming in. Like it was tough being out the back, not knowing anybody. Like it's hard to control a team in defense when you don't know who you're calling out to. But yeah, I think the turning point for me was I was starting to get more comfortable with the boys, and yeah, as like you said before, Shane, he's an awesome coach, and he was just giving me little advice just to stay calm and just play football, just play what's in front of me, instead of kind of playing a little bit robotic towards the start when I first went into flag. That's how I kind of feel I wasn't my natural self. So yeah, him doing a little bit of work on the side with me really helped me to reach that turning point, and then yeah, started to get comfortable.
What is your natural self, bro? What, obviously, we've spoken about kick returns, but what do you pride yourself on in your game, and what do you think you're good at?
I think, like you said before, like my ability to beat a man one on one, I really push. That's something that I'm high, like see myself high class at. And I think my communication throughout the team, like making sure everyone's on the same page in defense, fairly easy to be heard, which yeah, a lot of teams love.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So
So,
you
I know this sounds like a job interview. I'll actually let Mike ask you some questions.
when coming up through the grades, do you captain any of your sides?
Pardon?
Coming up through the grades, did you captain any of your sides?
Yeah, I was oh not down here, but when back at home
Back-
I was captain nearly all of my sides,
Yeah, right.
to be
Yeah, so
honest. Yeah.
yeah, so you talk about your being vocal at the back as one of your strengths. So like it sounds to me like you'd see yourself as a bit of a leader on the field, yeah.
Yeah, definitely in a way. Yeah.
And back home, were you ever contracted with the Cowboys?
No, I was
Crazy.
never on contract with Cowboys.
What are they doing? Pull your head in, Cowboys.
They're lost. Mate, talk me through, obviously, we spoke about the extras that you did with Shane a little bit, but I felt like when he came on board last year as a fleet coach, and even you boys in Balmain last year, he gets you fit, he gets you humming, and you understand how to execute a game plan, but he really empowers the spine to really execute and lead a side around. That's sort of what I can see. You know, obviously you and Jared have built that solid combination. Obviously him as a 9 and you as a 1. But even last year when Mark came through and played a bit of 7, and even now you can see with Heath and that, like, it seems as if he really empowers his spine players to sort of build that game plan and execute. Is that, have I got that right? Is that sort of what?
You've definitely got that right there. Yeah, he's got a lot of faith in his spine and to call the shots like out on the field, and yeah, everything in a way comes or starts from us. So that's very good, because as long as the spine's on the same page, then generally most of the time the whole team's on the same page.
Talk us through your summer, bro. Did you do much time with grade, or was it a lot of it with the cup setup?
Yeah, all of it was with New South Wales Cup. Yeah, big thing for me through the summer was just to put on a bit more weight, just so I could get physically ready for the big boys, you know?
Yep. Zinger stackers and creatine.
Yeah, Cup preseason was tough. Definitely the toughest preseason I've done. It's got me looking forward to hopefully a bit of grade towards the end of this year preseason.
The Johansson boys were, when they were at the club, we were pretty close to them. And I remember that they picked Noah to play in that first trial, similar for you, because they picked the fittest and who'd perform the best. Talk me through that moment when you found out that you were going to be playing the Chooks in that first trial. How did that feel?
I was, yeah, at first I thought because I was actually asleep when I got the phone call. So I woke up, answered the phone, and yeah, almost thought that I was still dreaming, still asleep. I had to pinch myself a couple times just to make sure that I was awake. But yeah, when I found out that, I was over the moon. So happy that finally starting to get my foot in the door.
And how did you rate your performance? Like from our perspective, it looked really impressive, but how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I felt that I went pretty good, especially for only being able to play 30 minutes. Like I feel that I took that time that I had with both hands, and I think
Score a try?
yeah, yeah, that was an extra bonus on the side. Um, yeah, I think there was maybe one area where I fell asleep just for that 1 second. I probably could have could have made a break on the inside or led to another try. But other than that, I believe that I went fairly decent.
That's all I learned, bro. So talk to me about the Tigers set up itself, right? Because you've now played SG, you played Flag, and you trained with the Cup side, and that debut won't be far away. Obviously, I know Max has gone up the past couple of weeks. I don't think you'll be too far behind him. Jared has too. Is there Benji has spoken about it a few times that he wants all the plays to be the same coming through the grades. Doesn't matter who you play for, for the game plans to be similar and for, the sort of certain player types to be very similar across the grades. Do you feel that? Do you see that, sort of happening at the moment?
Yeah. Like we're both at, because I've been training at New South Wales Cup all week, and then I'll go back to Fleg for captain's run. And yeah, all the way through, we're running the same plays, the same calls, everything. Yeah, everything comes from NRL down.
And tell me about Benj. How's your relationship with him? I know obviously it's been a lot of time in Cup, but I mean, he did coach in that Roosters trial. What's it like to work underneath him?
Oh, that 1 week that I was there, I was kind of couldn't get out of idolizing him, to be honest. Yeah, still couldn't really believe that I was being coached by Benji Marshall. But nah, he's amazing. He's awesome. And I was speaking to a few of the boys when I was there, and they said that he's really stepped up since last year and took a turn for the club's best. Which yeah, I could definitely see when I was up there, just how direct he was with his calls, how if something didn't flow properly, we were told how to make it flow properly, or if we couldn't execute, it was on the line. But yeah, no, it was awesome just to be around him, be around that energy and that class of class.
You're also blessed to have probably the all-time great West Tigers fullback in the coaching ranks, Brett Hodgson. Have you had much time to, sit under the learning tree of Hodjo?
Nah, he was giving me little tips here and there, but we didn't get to talk too much, which I'm sure that I'll be able to have plenty of conversations with him in the future.
Absolutely, yeah. Can't learn from many better than him. Played above his weight for his entire career, and now you're even kicking goals like Hodjo. So,
Logan, you mentioned future, mate. What does it look like? Am I right in thinking that you come off contract end of this year?
Yeah, come off contract at the end of this year. But to be honest, I'm not looking too much into it. More so just been looking week by week, just trying to build consistency in my game, and the rest will come.
You sound like a first grader already with something like that, bro. Oh, what's your post game feed?
Whatever's closest.
what about your pre-game playlist? What music's on your playlist?
Well, it's a bit of a big mix, to be honest. Depends, like if I've kind of got little time periods like before the game. Once it gets closer,
I rate that.
I listen
Yeah.
to my harder stuff, like my Tupac, my Biggie, my DMX, my stuff, Eminem.
Man,
Hell yeah.
what are you, 35?
Stuff like that.
When I used to play reserve grade, I used to listen to In Sync.
Yeah.
Because it had stopped me from thinking about it too seriously, because I used to get terribly fucking nervous. So I was doing like boy band dancing routines in the car before I paid the gate.
Yeah, and then on the drive there, I'll kind of stay chill, listen to a bit of Taylor Swift, a bit of Katy Perry,
Love it.
bit of stuff like that. So yeah.
Man of genuine taste. So we obviously, we cover a lot of the pathways, and, we talk about blokes like yourself and Phoenix, who I know is back in the side this week, Christian, those sorts of guys. Talk me through somebody who is kind of slept on in this flex squad, or maybe even the cup squad as well, that you've got raps on.
Or I think my big one in the flag side, he had a little appearance on the weekend that just went by at full, but he went into fullback and I filled in at center. Sonny, I reckon, just from watching his games last year, I reckon if he gets a shot at the right opportunity, which I'm sure Salts will already have calculated in his head, because like you said, he's a brilliant coach. I think that he's definitely got something to pull out of the bag. Just from when we're at trainings as well, definitely.
Mm.
And at Cup, he's probably he's not slept on, but I'm keen to see him get into week in, week out footy. But Iverson Matai, he's yeah, nah, definitely keen to see what he can do at the Cup grade.
Yeah, me too, man. Like, it's obviously hard at the moment because Javon's playing a lot of 6 and he started at 7, like, week 1, but, like, he's a genuine good, like, decent
Mm.
creates when out of the back of shape. He's class, man. Like,
Yeah.
I was really I was worried we were gonna lose him. It was really good to see him turn up, particularly on the trial sheet. Yeah, he's got something, bro. I think you bang on there. Mate, talk us through your goals for this year, and, Mac, I'll throw to one last question, and then you can get out of here, Logan.
For me, this year is, yeah, like I said before, it's just a big year. Just head down, ass up, and just going as hard as I can, building consistent footy, showing what I've got, and hopefully by the end of the year, get a extension and hopefully a bit of NRL first grade there.
Nice, bro. And tell Arch we still love him.
I was actually going to ask, who's your like you shouted out Sonny and Iverson, but when you see a big forward, get on the front foot and find their front, and you get that feeling like there's something on. Who's your favorite forward to get behind? Give a shout out to the big boys.
Yeah, like you just mentioned, Archie, definitely. Strong, very powerful runner. Always seems to get an arm free when he can. Jeremiah, he's also a very like another one that I love running off, just because he's not your biggest front rower or lock, but he's just got a big motor on him and an even bigger heart, so he never stops. So it's good for me because you never know if he's going to get his arm out. But I haven't had too much to do to run off the Cup front rowers, but from my NRL trial, I definitely enjoyed running off Charlie Murray and Kit. They always were able to get an arm free, so it was good for me because once again I love a staggered line, so. Love a good little offload.
Just one last question before you go. Actually, it's a two-parter. Who's your favorite team and who's your favorite current NRL player?
My favorite team is the Melbourne Storm, just because growing up watching
You're a
Billy
Billy
Slater.
Slater fan, yeah.
Yep.
That is acceptable on those grounds. Any other?
Yeah.
He's from North Queensland. Billy Slater's also from North Queensland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said it's acceptable.
Fullback from North Queensland. It's totally fine.
Yeah. But my current favorite player would have to be probably Reece Walsh.
Yeah, figured.
Just with
Billy Slater and Reece Walsh.
yeah.
If they went into a lab, it'd be Logan Brookes. Also, I see that you named yourself Logan Brookes here. So
Yeah.
there's an ongoing. Actually, we gotta ask this question. Like, what is your name?
Yeah. So I'm in the process of sorting this all out, but my legal name is Logan Deninger, but I go by Brooks, which is my mum's name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm currently in the process of changing that to Logan Brooks to stop all the confusion.
And the irony of being L. Brooks at the West Tigers is not lost on you, I assume.
There, the
Yeah.
E stands for excellence.
Yeah, we just can't forget there's an E in there. But yeah, no, it's pretty funny that there's already been a Logan Brooks at the Tigers. So
Luke Brooks, and there was another great fullback that we all thought was going to be the next immortal named Logan Dillon. I don't know if you ever. Anyway, go back through the old
The
almanacs
archives.
and you'll see him.
yeah,
Anyway, mate, thank you so much for coming on. We'd wax lyrical about you most weeks, but it was good to finally, get to know you properly and understand what makes you tick. It's, hopefully your cup debut's local and I'll come watch. Wishing you all the best this week, and mate, always a pleasure, and you're welcome back anytime, providing that you actually like us and you actually want to hear us again.
cheers. Thank you very much. Enjoyed coming on, and yeah, thank you for the opportunity for a chat.
Always, mate. You take care.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you. Bye.
First grader.
Talks like one.
He's a fucking first grader. Look at him. Why haven't they extended him?
I don't know. I think they need to.
He's a first grader. So you can just tell.
Yeah, he is. I love it. What a great.
He's like he's absolutely footy 100, kicks goals, loves a staggered line.
Get the book out, Shannon.
Yeah, come on, Shannon.
Do you want to talk about this Warriors game?
I was going to say, like, you know, he's got a little bit of the Benji Marshall story. Like, Benji Marshall played, you know, the Queensland lower grades, came down from Queensland after starring in the Schoolboys like Logan did. So, you know, and then we got Brady Hodgson there as well. So, you know, he's got some interesting NRL coaches in front of him if he can push through. So that was awesome to finally get him on after talking about him for the last year and a half.
And there's hope for the kids yet if they're still listening to DMX pre-game.
How's that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you, 35, 45 years old?
Elite area.
DMX.
That was mad, bro.
DMX.
When I heard that, I was like, I get it now. I see it.
Yeah, well, it's from Townsville. You know, they're still like that's still like, you know, current music up in Townsville.
Well, he was dressed like Morgan Wallen. I thought that was.
I was going to
100%.
ask if he. I was literally going to say, you seem like a Morgan Wallen fan. I was like legit going to say it. Now I wish I had. But anyway, let's crack on with the proper Warriors preview.
Yeah, for sure. Similar to what we spoke about. Styles make fights, and these are, from my perspective, two sides that are similar in a lot of ways. You know, we're really going to rely on their forward packs and create momentum through the middle corridor. Halves that are going to kick well and, you know, try and execute a game plan as best as possible. And some edges that are very good out of yardage, but are prone to the odd error in doing so, and also defensively. New Zealand is one. I don't know if I necessarily communicated it on the podcast itself, but certainly in some circles, I've been concerned about it for a little while, particularly with the way the Warriors have started. That said, they are 4-0. And sometimes when you start, or 3-0 rather, sometimes when you start so red hot, sometimes there's a week that you might pull back or you might not be at your best, and I'm hoping it's this one. Mate, obviously we've got Madden and Dewey there, who I think are a pretty similar halves pairing. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but where is this game won for the Tigers?
Well, firstly, I don't agree. Jock Madden and Adam Dewey are not very similar at all. I think that they're very different players. Like, one's a run first player, one's a very traditional halfback, one's 6'3" and the other's 5'10". No, I think they're very different players. I think that they, as a halves pairing, are kind of okay. That's the reason I actually do think they're kind of an okay halves pairing, because they do. You know, they do different things. They bring different things to the equation. I think in a very traditional spine format, Jock Madden is a 7, Adam Dewey is a 6. So I guess, you know, but Benji prefers to play the left-right sort of halves where they both kind of like play one off the ruck depending on what the team's doing type thing. But well, I'm a little bit excited to see it. I think I do still believe Jock was pretty close to pushing himself into first grade off of his off-season and pre-season form. I don't think anyone at the club is too concerned about him. I mean, losing Luai aside, I think Jock Madden has probably done all he could have to be prepared for this and arrives in pretty good form. A shame he hasn't played in about a month, given that he's been named on the bench in NRL, missed out on the first 2 rounds of New South Wales Cup, plus, you know, didn't play a game until this is his first game since the trial, right? So that's maybe a little bit of an overlooked element here. He hasn't played a game of football in about 5 weeks, even though he's been fit. But, you know, in saying that, it probably means if he did have any niggles from the off season or from those trial games, he'll be in pretty fine fettle. Yes.
It's worth mentioning that Adam and Jock have played together.
Yeah, they would have.
They have. They orchestrated that great win against the Broncos 32-18 in 2022. But unfortunately, that is the only win they had out of 6 games. They had 5 losses.
I remember that game. That was at Suncorp.
It was. Now,
I was
there. Yeah, I think you were actually. Obviously,
that was a great game.
Yeah, Jackson Hastings at 13. Look,
yeah, I remember that game, yeah.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that obviously, that side was on its knees in regards to,
Yeah.
injuries, and it was in a random holding pattern.
What's the what 2002 Tigers versus Broncos, Jock Madden, Dewey? There would have been some bloody strange players named in that side.
I can run through the side for you. So
Yeah, do it.
Dane Laurie at the back, Brent Naden and Ken Marlowe, Bon Lord in solidarity.
Ketamine Ken.
Yes, Ketamine Kenny. The centers, Stafford and AJ Kepa. Dewey and Madden the halves. The forward pack was James Tarmal, Manu Brown. I forgot he had a sojourn with us. Joffa, Alex Seafarth, Kelma Tuolangi, and Jackson Hastings. The bench was Bolle, Musgrove, Austin Diaz, Penrith New South Wales Cup superstar Austin Diaz, and Tyrone Peachy.
Yeah, that's actually not that bad of a side.
They beat they beat a side that night that had Staggs, Mariner, Mam, Reynolds, Flegler, Haas, Kurt Capewell, Pat Carrigan, Keenan Palacia.
Yeah, right. I'm just trying to see if I can remember. Oh, yeah, Dewey scored the match winner. Just looking at a bit of I'm reading an article. Young playmaker Jock Madden ensured Brooks wasn't missed in the first.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying, doesn't it?
I remember back then watching Jock Madden every time he came into first grade and being like, please just keep him there. Like every time.
They were also the halves pairing when we played the Roosters and got beaten 72-6.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, so, and
Wasn't their
we got
fault.
shellacked by the Raiders 56-10. So they've been on.
It's never the halves' fault when you lose by 50, mate.
Well, Adam was spot-setted by the Roosters constantly that day. I remember that. I remember that pretty clearly. But his defense has improved since then, for sure.
Also, in this article, probably the funniest line, Naden bombed a golden chance for a second try late in the first half. Naden bombing tries. It's like peas and carrots.
What a surprise. Okay, straight away, I'm looking at their centres, and I think there's points around them, inside and outside. I think that obviously if we can, get here, Marcy, some early ball, that we can cause some issues there, particularly around, I think it might be Pompey on that right edge, possibly Leitao. Regardless, I think there is points there. Laban is still learning how to, protect his half a little bit on that left-hand side, which I think suits Dewey well, providing that his first movement is straight. And look, I love their bench. It's very good. But I think that, there is an opportunity for us to try and match them through the middle. Alex Twal has had the best start to a season that I can remember him having. I think we've got some great edges. This is a big week for Nuabole there. But I think the biggest one for mine is Terrell May. Make it personal with James Fisher-Harris and get on top of him. And if he does that, then, we go a long way towards winning the ruck and creating speed for Uppy Coruscant to play off the back of.
Yep, all of that. You're right. But you're forgetting one thing here. Tanner Boyd's fate rests in the palm of my hands. The only reason Tanner Boyd's even good is because I made a point last year that Tanner Boyd is a better value halfback than Jerome Luai. And then he proceeded to have a terrible year and make me look bad. So I spent the entire offseason doing dark magic, voodoo and shit to try to make Tanner Boyd look good so that he would come out this year and prove me right. Well, unfortunately for you, Tanner Boyd, your luck's run out. I'm pulling the pin out of the voodoo doll this week. You're going to have an absolute shocker. It's going to be a 3 out of 10 performance, and you're going to single-handedly lose the Warriors the match. Now, go back to being good next week. That's totally okay. But Tanner Boyd, yeah, you're going to be the Titans Tanner Boyd this week, not the 2026 model, mate.
I understand your optimism. I don't revel in it.
There's no optimism, I'm telling you. This isn't a prediction.
No, I'm not talking about Tanner. I'm talking about the match itself. Sorry, I should have precursed that.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, no, but even on that front.
Yeah, I know you control Tanner. That's not a problem.
Not only that, but at the end of the day, if you're ever bored for 8 to 9 hours, Vadim Zealand's reality transurfing volumes 1 through 7, really good listen on Spotify.
All right, let's try and stay on track. How do you see this game playing out?
I've made a commitment to myself in the quantum that I'm not going to tip against the Tigers once this year. Okay. I don't care. West Tigers are going to upset the Warriors and win.
Wonderful. I think it'll be tight because because of the weather and the fact that we are stylistically similar, but I don't see a win in our midst, unfortunately. I'm not willing to put a score on it because that would be rude. Okay, pathways. Last week,
Devastating week for the pathways,
it was horrific.
except for the MacArthur West Tigers, who both have made the GF.
Yes, which we will wrap in depth next week. We'll review those games properly. So stay tuned for that. And congratulations to both of those teams on making the grand finals. I saw them both, albeit when they were rotating the sides from midway through the year against the Western Rams in both grades. They've been phenomenal. And, we felt from probably week 1 or 2 of the season that they were going to be standouts. And sure enough, here they are on grand final day. We've always fallen short at the final hurdle in these competitions. I would love to see us get both done. That would be an incredible day for us in our pathways. What was not an incredible day was on Saturday. Now, obviously, we lost first grade, but we also lost reserve grade, and we had a draw in flag. Didn't talk to Logan about it in flag, but Cup, disappointing. Ball security was horrific. We completed at 59%. Despite that, we still actually ran for a similar amount of meters as the Rabbitohs, which speaks to that we were far and away a much better team. But realistically, it was that lack of ball security and a lack of cohesion, particularly, again, with no Tristan Hope and Jock Madden after they would have trained a lot of the preseason like that. It's been pretty disappointing from that perspective. I thought Javon Andrews had some good touches. I thought Tino Savannah, who's named on the extended bench and could be possibly debuting this week for first grade, that try that he set up via fielding the kick and then kicking back in field for Adard was phenomenal, but too little too late here. Trying the 67th to Will Craig and trying the 76th. It wasn't good enough, and that back line it's a bit part at the moment with Fainga and Craig in the centres, and obviously Andrews is used to playing outside Jock, so it's been a tough one, and it was reflected in that match where again I sit here last week and I went we should win, and we don't, which is disappointing.
Yeah, it sucks. New South Wales Cup, I think, couldn't have got an easier start to the season. The first two sides they played would have been my tip for last and second last.
Yep.
And they lost both of them. Not good.
Not at all, especially when you're going to play the defending premiers this week, who have had a slow start of the season, admittedly. They're 1-2, but after having Penrith pick the eyes out of their team. But yeah, it was disappointing. And there are a couple of guys, Maverick Gore in particular, who I would expect to be a lot better next time out.
I think that we have suffered at the hands of the 6-man bench with Benji's decision to pick Jock Madden. I feel like Jock Madden plays 7. We probably win both those games. It's like because he's so much better than that level. So yeah, it's a shame.
Onwards and upwards for those boys who play the Warriors on the weekend. In terms of team news, so Tino's obviously on the extended bench for grade. Jessesi is out for whatever reason. And Lachlan Broadalow and Will Craig have also filtered out of that side. Flag, 22-all draw with South. This one's disappointing. I think they should have won. Logan mentioned that obviously he moved to centre to accommodate for Sonny Edwards-Mweke after, I think it was Ryder Huth went off. It was Jack Nicholas actually, and everybody shuffled out. That was a little bit disappointing.
Sonny played good, but Logan's right. Like, Sonny was probably the best player.
Yeah, I thought Heath Pritchard had a good game too.
Yeah, Heath played well. And so did the guy you just mentioned, Ryder Huth. Never seen him before. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's played a couple of games of Queensland Cup. So, yeah, definitely something to like there for sure. I thought Archie held his gloves up and did well, but it's a game where I sort of looked at and went, we've won that one realistically. But Souths aren't anything to scoff at in fleek. So to come away with a point, it's not all bad. What did you make of it?
Yeah, should have won. 1 point's better than none. I think that they probably didn't quite capitalise on quite enough of their chances, and Souths were able to capitalise on more than their fair share, if I'm being honest. I think that there was probably a 2 tries better side, I think the Tigers were on the day, but didn't end up reflecting on the score sheet. It was just one of those weekends, unfortunately, across the grades. But look, I mean, if the curse was in for everyone across the grades and the flag side only managed to get to a draw and not an outright loss, they're probably winning the GF. This is how the universe operates.
There you have it. Christian Torpau-Moore's Phoenix got an 8 MP to tie back in that side next week. They've been promoted from SG Ball, probably because they can't mathematically make the 8
Yeah.
anymore because of what they dished up on the weekend. I thought they had finally awoken. The try that Peter Ty scored in the 2nd minute was incredible. The try that Glassy scored in the 10th minute was even better. It speaks to why I drafted him. Go and have a look at it. Just the way his movements. He doesn't lose speed when he changes direction. Like he's really beginning to have those classy touches. A little bit like we sort of hoped and predicted in a lot of ways, which is great. But the thing was that after the 23rd minute, we almost just put the cue in the rack. And we lose that game. It was so disappointing. Like, realistically, it should not have happened. We sit here, extremely disappointed. And I am. It's one that really, really hurts. And it's a game where you play against this Bulldog side. I know they didn't have Brighton, who's a great player. They were missing a few others. Like, we should have won that game. That one hurt. Did you see any of it?
No, unfortunately. It's such a shame, with the Pathways podcast. I have watched so little of the Pathways. It's just unfortunately just life has got in the way. I've been a little bit too busy with work and business. Speaking of which, raiseproof.ai is today's sponsor of the podcast. Visit raiseproof.ai if you have a new startup and you're trying to get fundraising. You're trying to raise your seed, your Series A, your Series B, your Series C through Z. It doesn't matter. Create your pitch deck, upload it, connect with over 66,000 investors on the raiseproof.ai platform today. That's a quick segue there for one of the things that I've been working on this year.
That was great. Thank you. And shout out to our wonderful sponsors.
Raiseproof.ai.
Raiseproof.ai. I did that on purpose. We lost to the Sea Eagles. We as in Balmain. Blake Van Dree with a double. That kid has a knack of finding the line. And my God, like just the courage / suicide lines. That
He's a legend.
Runs there. I reckon we need to get him on the pod.
Blake Van Dree. We just had Max 2025 number 1 draft pick on the podcast. You are the 2026 number 1 draft pick. Come on the podcast. You are welcome here. This is a safe space for you, my friend.
There you have it. I thought Ashton Large very much showed us what we've been missing.
I reckon we'll get him back.
That'd be nice. He's a phenomenal number 9. I thought that the centers for Manly just blew us apart, which hurt, but it's true. Yeah, there's not much more to say. They continue to get themselves in strong positions, Balmain, but they fall away. Whether it's a personnel issue or it's a mental issue, that's for Bronson and Roy to work through. But yeah, just wasn't there on the weekend, which is disappointing. West Harold Mats had a very, very similar capitulation to their SG Ball counterparts. I thought Isaac Isdale playing halfback was interesting. He's very, very different to his brother, but I thought he had some really good touches there and did some good things. I thought Kingston Finau down that left edge was solid. I thought Monson Hopewadi, scored a great try. Yeah, I'm disappointed, I must say. Again, impressed by Searle and Cosgrave. Again, I think both of them have done well. I think Zeph Finau's efforts, are befitting of a man that's going to do some great things. Yeah, I just look at this game as well and I just go, it's one that we should have won, and unfortunately we're now 1-6. Like that's really disappointing. On the flip side though, obviously Harold Mats for Balmain had a wonderful showing against the Sea Eagles, and this time it wasn't Tommy Arroyan sort of pulling the strings. I thought the left edge looked really, really good. I was really impressed with that. Cesaro, again, deep and straight into the line. I thought Zach Bashara did beautifully to score his try, but also to set up. Kerr, at one point, Sione Meyer looks an unreal kick target. He's caught my eye again. I'm a big fan. I think he's big, tall, and athletic. When he fills out, he's going to be unreal. Yeah, they've done really well. They've done really, really well, Balmain. So it's a credit to them. I'm not too sure whether or not where they're sitting in the hunt for finals. They're 2 points out of the 8, so they've got to win these next 2 and hope the results go their way. They've got the Dogs, who, as you saw last week, should have went down to West. I'm not too sure who they've got the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. But a win is always good, and that's a massive help. LD Cup, 38-12 winners, victorious against the Newcastle Maitland Region Knights. James Lanyon is back, which speaks to the fact that obviously they realise now that SG Ball for West is a foregone conclusion. I will admit that I haven't seen this game and I will need to in the lead up, but there's a lot of guys in here that we are keen on. Obviously, James, who we just spoke about, Caleb Salanai, who played halfback on the weekend, who's the fullback. I think he's got something to offer. I love Kai Penfold, and I think Jake Gaffney's got a lot to offer as well. So we await the grand final there against the North Rivers Titans, 1:15 on Saturday at Port Macquarie. Meanwhile, the Andrew Johns Cup boys, they were 28-14 winners, victorious over the North Coast Bulldogs. They're really winding up, these boys. I'm very, very excited. Again, there's a couple of guys that I'm really keen on. Molatoni Talanoa, I think, has a lot to offer. I'm keen on Denim Sigalis, who moved into the back row. I'm also keen on Hamish Butler, who moved to the bench from the back row to accommodate Denim on an edge, and Jai Milford as well. I'm really keen to see these boys go to work in a grand final, and this is what it's all about from Pathways perspectives. Getting into grand finals, and they're there now, and hopefully, both teams are victorious on the weekend.
I'll have to dust off the quote from about 5 weeks ago where I said I reckon both of our MacArthur West Tiger sides would make the GF. Literally said that. Do you remember this? It was a thing.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you did.
Bryce
been bullish on Flag, and I'm pretty keen on Cup, but at the moment they've been.
Yeah, forget Cup. That's over. We're done here. They're. I'd be backing them for the spoon at this rate.
And first grade.
Yeah, still confident. Bryce Blatch is another name from the MacArthur West Tigers, Andrew Johns Cup side, back rower, big raps on Bryce Blatch.
Big raps and a big man.
Yeah, he's a big kid and he scores a lot of tries, and he's a very sort of Ethan Roberts-ish kind of back rower kind of player. Speaking of which, geez, where's he?
Round 6, got a broken foot.
I'd love to see this guy in a Tigers jersey. You know what I mean? Like, it's been I haven't even seen him. Does he exist, or is he a figment of our imagination, Jared?
I think he exists, but yes, whether or not it's in this dimension or another, I'm not.
Yes, good. That's the way to put it. He is currently residing in a parallel universe. Look at you, so frustrated that I continue to talk bullshit.
The last thing that I will leave you with is a comment that I've just seen on West Tigers' latest Instagram post while they're in New Zealand. Charles Bashara 11, please put Herbert in Onstead, has experience in the centre role, and sign Jenkins.
Sign Jenkins?
Sign Jenkins.
Fair enough.
See you next week. Good luck to all West Tigers affiliated teams, particularly First Grade Cup, LD Cup, and AJ Cup in their grand finals. Bye.
Stay faithful.